This week on the O The Anthem podcast, we actually have sports ball to talk about? What? In other COVID-related news, we're talking about the shadow United States government that has forced itself upon us. Southern churches during Easter, apparently death is God's will. The future of movie theaters and the box office in general, and then a whole lot going on in politics because Bernie has dropped out, endorsed Biden. It's going to be Biden v. Trump for the 2016 election. Listen to the joy in my voice, and then go vote regardless, please. All that and more coming up here on the O The Anthem podcast. Sorry, we had to do this at our home for a change. This is Gory, and this is the O The Anthem podcast.
It's been 7 years of the O The Anthem podcast. Well, we're into year 7 of the podcast. We're into 1 month of quarantine. Yes, we're both wearing pants. This is episode 314 of the O The Anthem podcast.
If you'll call these pants.
Coming to you, joggers, I'm sorry.
This lacy little something I've got on.
Coming to you from the #OTA LA studios, high above the 110 freeway in downtown Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us.
Yes. Up front, I promised you sports ball. We're going to give you a little bit of sports ball. Of course, Rob is frantically trying
to get the list of stuff up. Here we go. All right. And just a reminder, if you're watching us, no matter you're watching us, thank you for joining us live. You can send us a message right there wherever you are. Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, or no, not Instagram.
Twitter.
Facebook, Twitter, which is Periscope.
YouTube,
or Twitch. Send us a message. We can see your messages live, and you can be part of the show. All right. Yeah. So now we're going to cut on down to that famous splash. Only had an hour to get ready for the show. Rushing right up to the line. Yeah, that's how we do it.
I looked up at one point and I was just like, did you want to do the lead off for us tonight? And then I looked and saw nobody in the chair and I'm just like, guess it's me. It's fine. It's no biggie. Oh. Sports ball. Believe it or not, this coronavirus has been the end of at least one league.
What?
Yeah.
Who would have guessed?
And unbelievably, it's the XFL.
Well, I got to say, Vince just can't catch a mother effing break at this point. Like, his first league was a little bit garbage. But
it made it through the year.
Made it through 2 years.
No, 1 year.
I thought that he was like planning the second year.
He was planning the second, and they all said, no, please don't.
No, we're good.
We've seen what you have to deliver. It was fine. One season is
we got
it. Yeah.
We got it. This time, he put together a quality product. People actually enjoyed it. But Corona.
I mean, like, I think the merits of how much people enjoyed it is sort of like...
I think you're skewed because you're in LA. In D.C., they were packing the stadium. So it was popular in D.C. Apparently in New York, also very popular. In Texas, the 2 teams in Texas were also not selling out, but like doing all right in the stadiums they were playing in. We can't ever use L.A. as a bellwether about how things are going because L.A. just not a sports town. That's not what we do here.
I mean, it's a sports town in a certain way. It's not a sports town in like a...
Got a lot of money. Got a lot of money to spend on sports, but we also got a lot of hipsters. And hipsters, they call it sports ball. So. But yes, XFL, unfortunately, has gone the way of the dodo.
Yeah. Pour one out for XFL.
I was literally about to move your camera so I could get up and shift your camera a little bit. But you're good. Now you're good. That's where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. Figured it out too late.
But here's the thing. So 3 XFL players will be playing on
By the
NFL.
way, the curl, delicious.
I can see it.
I could have fixed it a long time ago. I chose not to.
Hang on.
To
Let's
give people...
Ooh, yeah, that's even bigger.
If you're not watching the video portion of this podcast, you are missing out because this curl game is on point.
Superman curl.
I was joking with Rachel earlier that my hair has gotten to the Shooter McGavin phase.
Yes.
Where
Yeah.
Watch it, Gilmore. Like,
part of my intro was going to be my hair is as long as it has ever been.
Yeah.
Unless the time that I actually grew it out on purpose, and it is driving me insane.
That one picture of you with Tucker Max, I always think that you look like. Do you ever see the picture of Bill Clinton when he had like the wild man hair and like
at Oxford,
patchy beard? Or something?
Yeah.
And that was your Bill Clinton picture of similar vintage.
Yeah, just hold on. I'll have that Monica picture eventually.
By the way, for no other reason than I have nothing else to say about this than R.I.P. Linda Tripp.
Oh, yeah, sadly. And she gets to avoid the nonsense that would most certainly come from American Crime Story being Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
In, 4 months or whatever, whenever it comes out.
Right.
Sad. But, I'm happy
I
to say.
almost feel like, though, that dying sort of gives you I feel like Cochran in in the OJ one.
Yeah.
Like, he was almost like a angel figure because he's dead.
Yes.
Like, I feel like if Cochran would have been alive for a little bit longer, he would have done something that would have And I'm not just saying that because, like, he was a horrible person or something like that. I'm saying, like, just normally people just ebb and fall if they're in the public eye.
I mean, no.
At some point, he, like, misses the trash can when he's throwing away his newspaper, and it rims off, and he's just like, fuck it, and he walks away.
Somebody's
and
like,
that
Johnny
shows
Cochran.
up on TMZ. It's just like, Johnny Cochran hates the earth. Like,
here's the problem, though. Linda Tripp, famous because she sold out her best friend to a local paper.
Right.
Or television. I think it was paper.
Ken Starr.
Was it directly to Ken Starr?
I thought it was just to Ken Starr.
No, I think someone from the paper let Ken Starr know that they had an informant.
There was some sort of...
them.
Just remember that future Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh was looking around trying to figure out all the women that Clinton had extramarital affairs with because he said it was so important. And now look at where we are now.
And he was slamming beers on the weekend. So,
Spending $20,000 for his Nationals tickets.
Things do have a way of coming around on us. But that's not sports. What sports is XFL.
How are we coping?
Well, the XFL, 3 players from the XFL are going to be playing in the NFL if they play this fall. So in that, so much as there was a positive impact, I still think the XFL or the NFL needs a spring league just like this. And why aren't more teams talking about, like, listen, they did a decent job. They had good turnout. Let's find cities that aren't NFL cities, but we'd like to give a team to, and start a 12-team farm league.
I mean, I feel like, if anything, the NFL is just eventually going to create its own XFL. Like,
how do you start NFL Europe before you start the farm league here?
Well, not only that, but I mean, like, I feel like what the golden opportunity that the NFL is missing is that
listen up, Paul Tagliabue.
Roger Goodell. God, how long ago? How long ago did your brain stop developing?
No, you made a Tagliabue joke, and I've been thinking about it all week. It was literally like 5 days ago, and every time I think about the joke, I'm like, how old is that joke? Oh, my God. That's like a late 90s
By the way,
joke.
just as an aside, if Roger Goodell doesn't start the NFL draft with piped-in sound effect booing, I have no respect for the man. He doesn't understand how this works. It's not the NFL draft unless we boo Goodell. Like,
that's what you have to do. And
Gary Bettman would not have the sense of humor to pull that one off, but something tells me Roger Goodell's like talking to somebody like in the office. He's like, I bet it would be a big internet moment on the TikToks if I had booze pumped in. And then I could just be like, my usual greeting. Ha, 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 ha.
Apparently he's a robot. Is Roger Goodell a robot?
I don't know. I feel like I needed to differentiate my voice in some sort of way. Like, he could have been a pirate. He could have been anything.
Apparently, Brendan is the chairman of the NFL because those are very similar voices.
Jerry Jones, you're very important to me. Let me rub my hand on your supple face. Backside like this.
He is supple, like a baby. Maybe his Benjamin Button. Maybe he's actually only 25.
7 years old.
He's only 25. We don't even know.
He's been around for too long to be a Benjamin Button.
So we were talking in the pre-show about
sports coping.
Yes, and that there are some rumor amongst some of the sports that they're going to try to do I think I loved your term, ceremonial seasons.
Yeah.
Even if we don't count them against the record books because not everybody got to play and it wasn't 162, let's find a way to give people some baseball and some other sports.
Yeah, I mean, and I honestly think that, right now, all the sports leagues that are either supposed to be playing or all the ones that are supposed to be playing, because baseball would have started by now, they're all trying to figure out how do we give some version of a product to people to watch. The NBA is playing around with the idea of doing all the games inside of training facilities in the LA area and just sort of locking down all the players and hotels for a short period of time where they have like a tournament of the teams that would have made it to the NBA final championship, the tournament under normal circumstances. And, maybe you don't give the Larry O'Brien championship trophy for that, but you give a, like this really weird season championship invitational or whatever. And baseball was talking about a similar thing with Arizona, like just taking all the Cactus League parks and Chase Field and playing all the games and locking all the players down. And, they're not great ideas because it sort of misses. I feel like sports would really miss the crowd more than like SNL. Like, you're watching John Oliver and there's no laughter, so it's like a little disconcerting.
To be fair, though,
there were clips of WrestleMania with no fans that just looked unusual.
Steve Austin doing his his calls out to the audience
like
with nobody there.
Like it just looks weird when you get D'Lo Brown out there going like and then. But then nobody's there to interact with D'Lo. He's just all by himself.
To be fair,
way data reference, by the way. Somebody's going to be so excited that I talked.
Did you reference D'Lo Brown? To be fair,
somebody tweet D'Lo Brown and let him know he was mentioned on the podcast.
Yeah, yes, please do. Tag us both, please. But some teams though won't be out of place. The Tampa Bay Rays. I mean, basically, they're going to be like, "Wait, what are you guguys talking about? This is what it always sounds like when we play baseball."
Fans.
Wait, how many people are? Were you guys expecting people to show up? Did people come to your game? It's the meme from God. What is that?
The two that are immediately coming to my mind are either Jim Mora going like fans, like instead of playoffs. The other one is Bane, like I was molded in the darkness.
Now I'm thinking about from the Showtime show about the dysfunctional family where Macy plays the dad.
Oh, fuck, yes.
You know what I'm talking about, though?
Yeah.
Where the kid from that going like, you guys are getting paid for this? But like instead it's Tampa Bay being like, you guys playing for the fans?
That was the movie with Sudeikis and Jennifer Aniston and
I was walking you to the meme.
But
the kid whose name I don't know is on the show that I don't know. But I do know William H. Macy, and he plays the dad on that show.
Why hasn't that guy and whose name I'm forgetting? Please forgive me. I'm just generally not good with names, and I'm gonna prove it again by mentioning another actor whose name I can't remember. I'm getting into this thing. Who was the one on Breaking Bad?
Aaron Paul,
the Matt Damon looking one.
Oh.
The Matt Damon looking gentleman.
The guy
he should play the older brother of the guy from.
From that show.
Just like I said, we missed the opportunity of being able to have Paul Walker be Kevin Costner's son in something because it was just like the perfect alignment of the two of them could have been like great off of each other. I feel like we need to make up for it with this.
I don't know that guy is old. I
feel like Philip Seymour Hoffman back in the day could have melded his way into this amazing acting family and given us a.
There we go. It's Hoffman as the dad. It's the guy from USS Callister, which is the other thing he's from. As the older brother or the brother from a previous marriage.
Yeah.
And that kid as the kid from the new marriage.
Right.
That's the family right there.
Yeah.
All right, somebody dig up Philip Seymour Hoffman. I think he might have been cremated, so be careful.
Oh man, I think we should just call that sports ball. I think that's as close to sports as it gets these days.
Was that enough for the thing?
Competitive digging.
I was trying to figure out my computer was dying. Plug was not plugged in. All right. So next up, the topic that none of you was expecting that we would talk about, coronavirus. Hey.
Somehow it's made it into another show.
How are you going to do it? But the one thing I love about... Let me rephrase that. The one interesting thing about coronavirus is, and I think just the president in general, This is what I thought about while I was in the bathroom just before the show, Corey. And just to give you some insight into how my mind works, this is what I thought about while I was peeing before we went live. Donald Trump has done what Thomas Jefferson and Patrick Henry could have only dreamed of.
Splitting this country into...
He is breaking up the federalist nature of the United States.
Yeah.
And maybe we could throw Jefferson Davis in that as well. Although I feel like Jefferson Davis was more of a like, listen, I'm with you guys, but I don't really want to have any part of this. And then
I think Jefferson Davis would have figured out a way to start a war regardless of who it was with.
So here's the thing, though. Jefferson Davis didn't start that war. They basically were like, hey, so
Jefferson Davis is the type of person who's like, I ain't gonna start a war, but I'll fucking finish it.
That is basically it. He was like, the bunch of guys, we have our Confederacy. We're doing this by the anti-federalist rules, and then it didn't work. And then they were like, hey, so we're gonna lose this. Do you want to like maybe be the president and save it? And Jefferson Davis was like, well, I don't start wars, but I'll be damned if I'm gonna lose one. So let's go. And then basically made the South into a federalist country, just like the North. So,
yeah.
But what Jefferson Davis and Patrick Henry and Thomas Jefferson could have only dreamed of, and that's creating strong executives at the state level who basically say, well, if you won't do it, we will do it.
Yeah.
And, we've had a running debate, I think, between Cuomo love and Newsom love about who is the best, and maybe a little bit of Hogan too, about who's the best daddy governor.
Well, I think Newsom, just generally speaking, is the best looking of any three of them.
Oh, well, I mean, yes.
So, I mean, like, if it's like I know a lot of people are doing the, like, dreamy Andrew Cuomo thing. Like, I think we've won the dreamy governor contest, you know? Like,
yes.
Newsom's a pretty... He's literally been ripped out of a J. Crew catalog and put into Sacramento.
Also, in case anybody had forgotten, we're also winning the how many affairs has your governor had, because that is what Newsom also leads in. As far as I know, Cuomo, no extramarital affairs. Although, New York Times, not doing a lot. I'm just saying.
Not doing a
Doing some digging. Just do some digging.
They're all at home.
I know, so they can do some digging. Just
what are they supposed to do?
Get on their computer boxes and just tap.
Just call random numbers and be like, has Andrew Cuomo sexually harassed you? What?
Google Andrew.
Never mind. Next.
Google Andrew Cuomo extramarital affair and see if anything pops up.
Why don't you do it then?
Because I want them to go deep in the Google search. Like, 2, 3, 4 pages in.
I don't got time for that shit. If it's not on page 1, then clearly somebody didn't pay enough to get it on page 1. So.
Or did Andrew pay enough to get it off page 1?
Yeah.
Look at us. Look, it's going to break.
All the great scandals in American history found on page 5 of Google results.
It's going to break next week, and they're going to be like, well, somebody talked about this last week. What happened? How did they know? We have no idea. We're making it up.
I'm glad you specified that in case the
Cuomo wants to come after us. Yeah.
Cuomo's lawyers are listening for the lawsuit, and they're just one more fucking thing. Say one more. Fuck. They're acknowledging they're joking.
Sue me. I got nothing, bro. You're going to spend more money on lawyers.
You're going to spend time on this.
But, yes, so we win in extramarital affairs and awesome governors. So, we have developed a little bit of an East Coast, West Coast rivalry with Newsom putting together 3 states into a coalition, which makes up, 100 million people or so?
Way more than that.
California, 100 million people. California's got
California's 15% of the population of the country.
Okay, 15% of 300 million.
Well, I know, but I'm not done with Oregon and
okay. I think Washington is something along the lines of 15 million people, and Oregon is something like 7 million.
Okay, I vastly underestimated California's population.
What was California's population?
39.5.
Okay, so that maybe not even that. So add 15, add 7.
There's 8 in LA alone.
Yeah.
So 30 million outside of just this little pocket.
Yeah, and San Francisco or the
LA
Bay,
County, not LA, because
yeah.
like fucking Brentwood has to be its own fucking city, and
the Bay Area, which is made up of 4 counties, also has another 4 million people. So there's 12 million in 2 principal locations,
and only 700 or 600,000 of them in San Francisco.
Well, nobody can afford to live in San Francisco.
There's not enough space to live in San Francisco. I think honestly, this is not coming from any place of science. This is just sort of like my feel of the situation.
Let me put you on screen by yourself. Go ahead.
which should be exactly what you think you're getting every time you watch Trump give a press conference. I don't know what the science is. I'm just going to speculate wildly. But I do think that part of LA's ability to sort of survive the onslaught of coronavirus is by the sheer fact that we're further away from people than because New York is 500 people in the same building taking the same elevator and
LA population in the city of San Francisco,
right?
Rather than LA in LA, which is 400 square miles or whatever it is.
So I think that's part of the logic that we should be taking as to why LA has sort of survived.
But my point originally was Gavin Newsom putting together, 75 million people in a coalition in 3 states. And if you want to know the difference between the East Coast and the West Coast, Cuomo also putting together a coalition of, 70 million people with 11 states on the East Coast.
Yeah.
It's like Delaware to New Hampshire.
Well, to be fair, Rhode Island's got 20 people. So.
Yeah,
still 2 senators, still a congressman.
That's democracy.
They have as much voting sway in the. You know what? I forgot this idea. It was just one of those random pooping ideas I had.
Wait. Do not skip over that. What is a random pooping idea?
When you're just sitting down and you don't have your phone and you're just what can my mind come up with now? And then you come up with some sort of idea and you're just I should remember that for later. And then you forget it. And then it just came back to me now.
Folks, it's Corey at otheanthem.com. Or you can find O The Anthem on all your social medias. That's at O The Anthem on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere at O The Anthem. If you have pooping ideas, let us know what they are.
I don't know.
Pooping ideas.
I don't know if that's so unusual. I just don't. I feel like I might have been the only one who puts it out into the. Because I don't know if you've heard this. Everybody poops.
Once again, that's at O The Anthem on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Send us a message. Let us know your pooping ideas. New podcast idea on the O The Anthem Digital Network. Pooping ideas with Corey.
If you're gonna put it on Instagram, I just want to see the knees, beach photos.
Can we start the trend of hashtag pooping ideas? I just want to see chest up with the toilet tank in the background. I don't need everything.
I want the other way. I want the you don't
knees down.
No, you don't have to show the underwear or something like that. But the hot dogs or legs thing.
Yes.
Basically the same sort of. Just give us a little bit of the knee.
I have some concern. You and I this may not be a problem, but there may be people for which that becomes an X-rated photo. I'm just saying, let's be careful about the hot dog leg photo.
Okay,
but
I'm not.
Please do share.
Also, don't do it if it's going to impair your ability to use the bowl correctly. I don't want to I don't want there to be girls trying to sit up on their shoulders to take
the hot dog leg pics.
Yeah, the toilet bowl doesn't work if your butt is that far away from the seat.
Can you spell out the hashtag so everybody is using the same hashtag? What is it?
What did I say it was?
Poopin' ideas.
Poopin' ideas.
How are we going to spell that out?
Well, poopin' without a G.
Okay, so POOPIN ideas.
Yeah.
POOPIN IDEAS. Use that hashtag on social media. We're going to find your pooping ideas, and we'll talk about them on the website. And maybe sometime in next year, after we get the splash for your consideration, we'll actually get a splash for pooping ideas. Oh!
We're not allowed to get outside. The pooping ideas one would be easy to do. I could just... Give me 20 minutes. I'll be back with it.
If you come back with a splash for pooping ideas tomorrow, I will bring up my own pooping ideas. I swear to you.
I will be furious with you.
Pooping ideas. All right. Anyway.
Going back to that idea that I had. I didn't imagine it was going to become a whole thing.
Sorry, I want to interrupt one more time. And that's people should watch 100 Humans because one of the things in there is everybody poops, but how do you do it? And it's 100 people come in and give their opinions about this is how I sit and this is toilet paper. By the way, over is correct, not under. Yeah. 90% of people do over. I don't think they got to what do you do when you don't have your phone? Do you come up with pooping ideas? But maybe they should have asked that question. What's your best pooping idea?
I don't know if I would necessarily have an answer for that question on the regular, but right now I happen to. So I'll go forward with it. I feel like
this is one of those questions that when you're
I feel like this is setting up to be way bigger of a thing.
Oh, no.
I
am rolling pooping ideas.
No. I mean, when I eventually tell you the idea that I had, it'll have been 15 minutes of setup and
the idea that you had, I don't care what it is. It's pooping ideas. That is the idea you had. New podcast coming to you. We got nothing but time. We got nothing but time and energy.
Do it from ancillary toilets.
Oh my God. Yes. Thank you, Anchor. By the way, you can always find the show at anchor.fm, available on Tuesday. It'll send you links out to everywhere you want to listen to, or you can listen to it right there on Anchor. But Anchor also allows us to go live in 2 separate locations and do a podcast. I'm hearing 2 separate locations. 2 separate bathrooms.
We could do it in the apartment for 2 separate.
Oh, we absolutely could.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Question.
Then we could hardwire mics. We just need to get longer cables.
Are you doing pooping ideas pants on or pants off?
Well, I mean, like, I feel like I would have the pants on, but around the ankles. Like,
oh, man. So you'd be actually pooping?
Well, no,
I have
just
to watch out for like sounds in the background. No, so run a low pass.
I feel like I'm not a good enough actor for people to know that I'm not at least faking that much of it, you know? Like, I feel like the audience would be into it. Like, they'd be like, he's wearing fucking pants.
Listen, friend of the show, Roberto, has nothing but time. He can teach you how to act like you have pants off.
Hold on a second. Ha!
I'm sold.
Did you buy it?
Hey. The problem is when you forget and you actually start pooping and you're like, oh my God, my pants are off.
So back to the idea that originally started this whole thing.
Pooping idea.
Yeah. We could still have 2 senators for every state, but the total vote is whatever the population is, and every senator gets a, so California has 39 million people. Call it 40 just to be equal, right?
Number's sake. Yeah.
Kamala Harris would have the vote of 20 people, but it would be 1 person. So you get the chance of having more important people by elevating them to as one of 2. But you would also take away this thing of like 1 person in Alabama can completely eliminate 40 million people's.
I don't think you understand bicameral legislatures.
I think I do, and I'm pretty fucking sick of it.
Alternative.
I didn't think when it was fucking 13 colonies, they weren't thinking about us having like fucking populations as big of states in cities. Like, this just didn't like rank as things that they imagined would come.
The problem is they absolutely did.
They absolutely did not. Fuck this. No,
they did. Because they had the same problem. The point was to give a place where Rhode Island, which had a small population, had the same power as Virginia, which had a large population.
Right. I mean, like, generally speaking, they were trying to even the odds between big populations and small populations.
What they didn't count on was $10 trillion deficits and us being the guardians of the world and needing to act quickly.
You know, like when NCAA, like, there's like a recruitment scandal, and then they say like a team can't play for a while.
Yeah.
It's just like Penn State is kicked out of the NCAA for 3 years.
Senate, you're out.
Yeah. Like, I feel like there should be a similar thing. Like, we've decided we're kicking out the following senators. Alabama 1, Alabama 2. Like,
I have a version
just make a list of like 20 people who just can't be in the Senate anymore.
I have a version of that. Guillotine. We just guillotine, and the guillotine solves that problem.
The governors will appoint new people, and they'll be just as awful. Look at Kelly Loeffler. So,
well, to be fair, the legislatures appoint senators, and that might not go the way that I planned. Since some Democratic senators can win, but the Republicans can.
Back to where we started.
Yes, your pooping idea. Go ahead.
No, that was the pooping idea. The give Kamala Harris like 20. The equivalent of 20 votes,
20,
you know?
But then doesn't that just make the Senate another house?
Yeah, but then it gives us less people to like. So think about it in terms of if it came down to something like where Susan Collins and Mitt Romney and stuff like that are on the block. We could focus more on terms of who has more of a voting share than who it, like you would still be able to turn a lot of votes at one time by convincing one person. But you could also say, like, what the fuck do I care about Lisa Murkowski? She only has 10 million people or whatever it is. Like.
How about this? Alternate version. Let's workshop this just a little bit. Do you know about...
Or maybe it could be part of, like, earlier parts of Senate voting, but not all Senate voting?
Unicameral legislature. Nebraska has one. Mm-hmm. And they do a proportionate vote. So a county or... I think it's by county, might have, because of proportional vote, 3 people that go to the legislature. But they also send 1 person as the, like, leader. So the county has 3 representatives plus 1 representative, and every county gets 1. Now, some are going to have 1 and 1. Some are going to have 11 and 1 based on population. And the 1 is meant to be the leader of that county. So it's like kind of what you're describing, except for less power.
Yeah.
Because you're not getting the vote of 20. You are one of 5 votes for that count.
Yeah.
Quarantine's making my brain go crazy. But you're one of 5 votes. But, I spent 17 years as a lower member. Now I'm an upper member, but it's all the same house.
Right.
And my vote counts equally with theirs. And everybody gets one. So it basically nullifies the one.
Yeah.
And just allows people to say, oh, well, I was a junior member for a while. Now I'm a senior member. And basically it makes the Senate powerless, which I think is what you're getting at here. You want the Senate to be powerless, and I'm with you on that.
Well, no, I mean, like, because here's the thing. Like, neither the Republicans or the Democrats are ever going to get to the point where they have 60 people again.
No.
So the idea of having a filibuster is just kind of ridiculous. To be like to be able to get anything done without it is just sort of a hill that you're dying on for no reason.
And they don't even do it now. Now somebody's like, I will filibuster it, so they don't bring it.
Well, I mean, like, people realize that nobody's watching all 15 hours of, Chuck Schumer reading Dr. Seuss books.
For
like
yourself, all right?
So all he has to do is go in front of CNN and be like, I'm thinking about filibustering, and it's just like, oh, Chuck's serious.
Bill never comes.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I don't.
We might have to listen to Chuck read.
Alternatively.
Yeah.
And I know I said this a few years ago, but I'm going to re-offer the idea.
Oh, I thought it was just going to be guillotines.
No. Cal exit.
Yeah.
And we bring Washington and Oregon with us.
I mean,
Nevada can come too.
I wouldn't.
We're moving that direction.
I never would have thought it would be as realistic as it is, especially if there's another 4 years of Trump. Because
keep in mind, California is the only one with a duplicitous set of laws that match the federal. Oh no, one of 2. Texas has them.
Yeah.
And California has them. We can eliminate the federal government, and nothing would change.
Yeah.
Because OSHA, we got one of those.
Right.
Environment, agriculture, every department, California has one. So does Texas. So we literally could just say, hey, Oregon, Washington, Nevada, Idaho, Arizona, you want to come with us? Because we're going to go do our own country thing and just adopt California laws.
I mean, another thing to think about, and this used to be the boot that California had over the rest of the country for most things. Like, you had to at least listen to California because of this.
Yeah.
15% of the population, yeah, sure, that's great. I mean, like, across 50 states, that's way more than average. But if you look at terms of the economic impact of California as opposed to every other state in the country.
The 6th largest economy in the world is the state of California.
Yeah.
The United States, by the way, not number 1, number 2 now.
Yeah.
So that means the 8th largest economy makes up part of the 2nd largest economy in the world. And when we're done with this, I can't say for sure that California
It's just
won't
like
be,
if they counted Japan and China together. Like,
yeah, just add those 2 together. We're going to call it East Asia. And that's, now we're getting into 1984 territory. But after we're done with this, can you say that the economy of the country won't have degraded and the economy of California improved?
I mean, so there's been talks about with the eastern block of New York and New England and stuff like that, and the western block of California and Oregon, Washington, of being able to reopen the country sort of carefully and selectively,
smartly
in these areas.
Yes.
And I think that if for whatever reason it worked, and I don't imagine they would really go forward with it unless they were pretty fucking certain it would be a good idea. But I think they're sort of putting it out there to sort of see how people react to it. And honestly, I think that a economy of just California and New York effectively, I mean, like, Washington's obviously a huge economy state too, and Boston or Massachusetts and stuff. Yeah. But like California and New York are certainly the star players in the economy there.
And by the way, 2 economies that survive because they're not based on building shit. It's everyone can work from home.
Yeah.
It's entertainment and it's Wall Street, although Wall Street, I guess, is dependent on things elsewhere.
Right.
But for the most part, it's economies that will survive no matter what.
But I'm saying, like, if the rest of the country can take it easy and just these 2 blocks can restart the economy in some sort of way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
To be fair, though,
I'm constantly amazed by how dumb Trump is. Just because, like,
that was going to be what I said. It's just like we can't get the federal government to get in alignment with anyone on anything. And
I feel like Newsom wanted to shut down the state a week and a half earlier than he did. I think he was just like he was talking to somebody at the White House, and he's just like, are you gonna do anything? And he's just like, I think next week is when we do something. It's just like, all right, I can wait a week. I mean, like, I don't want to, but something bigger is coming. I'd rather it just come from the government.
Yeah,
and we don't have to interfere. And then a week passed, and it's just like, yo, what the fuck's up? And it's just like, he's still waffling on it.
Maybe
It's
a week.
like,
Give us a week.
I don't have time for you. Like, you have until Friday. And then he's just like, nope, shut it down. And then every other governor basically did some version of that as well.
I think the difference,
some of them, way later in the process. But
the difference of Newsom, though, is that Newsom's getting the governors in alignment, but he's also getting the mayors in alignment. So like Seattle, LA, San Francisco, they're all like, you call the ball. We're here, and we're going to do whatever they agree to do. But de Blasio and the mayor of Boston are both saying, well, no. We do what we want to do. And if we follow the guidelines of the state, then so be it. But we're going to do what we want to do. Yeah. And that's going to be a problem. And I think Cuomo's problem is de Blasio clearly is going to run for president again in 4 years, and Cuomo is clearly going to run for president again in 4 years. So it's like they both want to be the leader of what's happening in New York City.
I'm already calling Cuomo as the next election's Beto O'Rourke, where it's just like, oh man, he'd be a popular front runner, and then as soon as he runs, it's just like, nah, never mind.
See, I would say that
we're all right. We don't need him.
Newsom might be that, because Cuomo, if he's got no skeletons, he might be clean. The problem is we all remember about the affairs as soon as Newsom runs for president.
None of us go to page 5 of Google. So this is what we've learned here. So
and de Blasio clearly
perfect place to hide the dead bodies.
Based on the Martin O'Malley rule, de Blasio would not have learned his lesson the first time around, so he'll show his face again in 4 years, just like, hey guys, remember me? Hey. Not in Iowa, because I didn't go there, but
I mean, like, I do think it's what is interesting is that Newsom, just by being the governor of the most complex state in the union, does effectively all the jobs a president would do, just on a smaller scale.
Mm-hmm. Hogan can make the same argument, though.
Yes,
on a much smaller scale.
On a much smaller scale, I think.
Strong executive, though.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, I feel like. It used to be that when people were running for president, you were looking for somebody who had like the experience of something close to this kind of like pressure cooker.
Senate Majority Leader, Secretary of State,
a general in a very well fought war or something like that. Like, these people who it's just like, oh, he's been through it before. We know.
What if Colin Powell had run in 2016? I mean, he doesn't want to. He doesn't care. Bush burned him on everything, but like
Powell, I guarantee you, Powell would not have put up with Trump for a fucking second.
No.
Powell, I mean, like he probably would have done something that would have hurt his campaign by saying something that he didn't like.
Donald who?
No, like he probably would have done one of those like, will you shut up or something like that. And it became like a moment where it's just like the Howard Dean of the Republican Party, where that one little soundbite takes over.
We could look back at them and say, "You had Colin Powell.
Yeah.
You had Colin Powell." Because right now that we look back at who could we say a Republican, if Republicans were going to win in 2016?
Yeah,
who would do a better job than Trump? Was there
right
anyone?
Now?
Yes. Was there anyone running then that would do a better job? Mitt Romney, is he going to do a better job than Trump?
I mean, you could make a argument if you're following the same sort of logic that I was just putting forward.
Yeah.
Jeb Bush was the governor of Florida, which is another large industrial state that has a lot of. Being an executive of there is somewhat similar to being an executive of a.
Part of Trump's problem though was waffling, and Jeb Bush is a goddamn waffler.
I'm not saying he would have been the pick, but I'm saying if you're following the same sort of logic. And Jeb Bush, if you remember, prior to Trump joining the whole thing, was thought to be the presumptive Republican nominee.
Yep.
So, I mean, like, people were going into the 26th election going like, well, it's Jeb Bush and a whole lot of other people who are trying to vie for Jeb Bush's running mate. Like,
the problem is I just don't think there was anyone who would do a better job in this crisis that was running in that election. It wasn't going to be Ted Cruz. It wasn't going to be Chris Christie. It wasn't going to be Rudy Giuliani. Jeb Bush arguably he had the executive experience, but not the one who can make a hard call when it needs to be made. He couldn't make hard calls in his campaign.
Oh, I know. I'm not. That's a conversation between. Does the job that would be a perfect example of, is it the person or is it the job that he has held? Yeah. Like, is he competent enough to be president because he's been executive of another large organization like this, or is it all the person?
But I tell you that Colin Powell was running in
Could
2016.
Teddy Roosevelt just become 35 and run for president and be better than somebody who has... I'm just saying, like, that's the question. Is it
He
a
wouldn't
nature
run-
nurture thing? Like,
just to make a point.
Right.
He wouldn't run as a Republican because he wasn't a modern Republican. Just so that's clear.
No.
He was big about busting big banks and big corporations. Not really Republican values right
not
now.
now, but
No. But he would get out. He'd file for a Republican and be like, wait, what? We're doing what? No. Libertarian. That's me. That's what I'll do. I did it once. I can do it again.
yeah. But I'll just keep running until you kill me.
They shot me once. When you come at the king, you best not miss. But let me, if the hypothetical that there's Colin Powell in 2016, and he did have a gaffe that cost him the campaign.
I mean,
and now we're looking at that saying a general who got us through a war. That's what we need right now.
Honestly, not to pick out the two black people in the Republican Party, but Condoleezza Rice could probably have done a pretty decent job of it too. I mean, like,
I hate Condoleezza Rice,
but
she's good at it.
I mean, the problem is that we talked about this a couple of weeks ago with disaster relief people who were in like the Obama White House. Like, everyone said that they hated them. They were the worst people. They were cantankerous. They were awful.
You only need them when you need them.
But people didn't go like, oh, I can't wait to have a beer with Colin Powell.
No.
But like, if somebody's like, oh my God, the future of democracy is at stake, you'd be happy if Colin Powell walked in the door. You'd be like, hey!
Honestly, I think Trump would be happy if Colin Powell would walk in the door right now. If he walked in, he'd be like, oh, thank God. Do you want to go out? Can you finger gun some guys out here in this bullpen and like, let's take care of this nonsense. All right, I'm done going in front of the press. I'll call Fox and Friends.
Can you go up on this podium and tell everyone that I'm the best leader that's ever existed in the 21st century?
Nope, can't do that. I can go.
I was just on a tour. I'm a fan of this stuff when I'm not in the office.
Anyway.
Colin Powell with an old Kodak camera just taking pictures of the White House.
Oh my God.
Wearing Bermuda shorts, flip-flops.
And something else that, by the way,
I don't know what to tell you. I'm just a real politics junkie.
Somebody's brought this up in my Slack for my work. Do you remember Hit Clips?
No, but...
You don't remember Hit Clips?
No, I don't think so.
It was an early MP3 player, but it had like a little cartridge like Nintendo.
Oh,
and it played one song.
Yeah. I remember that now.
Someone posted this and was like, what in the fuck is this? And I was like, you spoiled ass fucking millennials. You have no idea what we went through to get you an iPod, all right?
Even when we got the iPod, like... I remember like having the CD thing and having to have extra big pockets to put my CD player in my pants. Get the not the Jinko jeans, but the equivalent of Jinko jeans.
And by the way, somehow the Walkman got larger, and you were like, how is this bigger? Okay, sound quality is better. I get that. But every time I take a step, it skips. Yeah. This is not an improvement.
This is a 45-second skip buffer on it.
But my second one had a skip buffer, and I was like, "This is magic."
I still remember when the iPod was released, and it's just like it was at this point. It was a humongous jump in the amount of songs we could have, but it was also like compared to today's standard, like a comically low amount. It's just like Steve Jobs is like, you can have 100 songs of your choice on this thing at any given point in time, and people are just losing their fucking minds. Like 100 songs? What would I ever need that many songs for? And now if you go on Spotify and you look for something and it's not there, you're just like, fuck the Beatles. Like,
but my comment to them was, this is what we had to suffer through for you guys to get an iPod. I went and bought a Hit Clips, and I listened to those free Happy Meal goddamn tracks. So.
I can literally sit here in my apartment and yell songs that I want to hear, and they play. Do you know what I had to go through to listen to a song back in the day? I'd have to call the radio station. I'd have to wait for them to play it. Or I'd have to have the tape ready to go.
Go to Sam Goody and spend $35 on a CD to get one song of the 27 that was on the CD that actually came in.
Yeah.
Can I just get a single? This isn't the single from the album. I'm sorry. We do have singles. I have 4 singles from this album. Not this song.
You'd buy the single. It's just the remixes of the thing that you... 4 crappy remixes of the song you wanted to hear. Oh, come on.
I hate you. This is what we went through. This is why we gave our computer diseases from Lime. Was it Lime?
LimeWire.
LimeWire.
And
Napster. We gave our computers diseases.
Something tells me this Jay-Z track shouldn't be 18 gigs. Oh, well.
And how many times did I download...
Or you're like searching through and you're just like, oh, man, this one's probably a virus, but it's on T3. So what am I... Who am I to complain?
Soldier Boy. How many copies of Soulja Boy did you have labeled like Jay-Z and Puff Daddy? And it's like Nas. Like, this is not Nas. I spent 3 hours downloading this track. Ugh.
The worst was when you were trying to figure out what a song was, and like maybe your buddy would be like, "Oh yeah, this is that new Jay-Z Dirt Off Your Shoulder, I think it is," and you're just like, "Oh great!" And you run home and you type in Jay-Z Dirt Off Your Shoulder, and then you look at your computer and it's just like, "This 3-minute track will be available for you in 18 hours," and you're just like, "I can't wait." And you're just sitting there for 18 hours straight, just looking at the screen as it slowly moves because like the technology is blowing your mind.
I was gonna say,
then as soon as it finishes, you play it, and it's just like Rick Astley, and you're like, "Fuck."
Today's kids today, you have no idea what it was like to go to bed.
To get Rick rolled back then was a real.
To go to bed
was really infuriating.
Sneak into the computer room and start the download on like 5 tracks because you knew by the time you got home from school the next day, all 5 would be downloaded. And then you get home, errors on all 5.
Well, your parents wouldn't also pick up the phone and disconnect the 56K modem back while you're trying to download the lit beats of the.
You peasants, maybe, but we got a dedicated phone line.
Oh.
The first time my mom was sending a work email and got cut off because my sister got a phone call from one of her little friends, we got the dedicated phone line for the computer, which had a phone, by the way, next to it. And our first modem that worked with that phone line, you had to hang the receiver up on the modem.
Yeah.
That was the signal. It didn't actually use the receiver, but it was like signaling the modem like, you have the line now. Now
You're
you can run through the
engaged.
computer. Yeah. Otherwise, if it's on the thing, it could be picked up and interrupted at any time.
We've been talking about a lot of things that aren't the things.
Nope. But we're taking you down memory lane for those of you young kids. So let's skip on down because I do want to talk.
Should we just sort of like rocket through a lot of these things?
I'm gonna move the second point down to the end and just see if we get enough time to talk about that a bit.
Okay.
But one thing I do want to talk about quickly, and we'll roll through these topics. Southern churches. Who knew religion would be the downfall of society? But of course it is. I think you brought it up last week that churches, because they were exempt, people are going to church because that's the only place they can go.
Yeah.
And despite being warned, a lot of those pastors were like, it's Easter. We got to have ourselves an Easter service. That's just what we're going to do.
It was opening day last week.
Oh, yeah.
I should have been drunk in the middle of the day watching baseball.
Instead,
and
you
I
were
know
drunk
that
in the middle of the day. Watching baseball.
I know that doesn't sound like religion to you, but it feels awfully close to me. And
seems strange coming from the guy who gave up Lent. I don't know.
There's extenuating circumstances to this Lent.
I'm sure St. Peter will understand.
Listen, it was supposed to be 40 days, not 40 years. What the fuck am I, Moses? Like, sign up for 40 days, not counting Sundays. They're good.
And holy days.
Yeah. St. Patrick's Day. Thank God I can have a Coke.
I thought you were going to make it, by the way. When you got to St. Pat's, I thought you were going to make it to the end. Because it was like, all right, you get a break in the middle of the week. It's not even a Sunday. We get 2 Sundays and a holy day in the middle.
That was the one that fucked me, though. Because then I went like the 3 days and I was like broken of my habit. And then I got it back and then I just went back to it. I was just like, fuck this. No.
So you're blaming St. Patrick? Is that what you're doing?
No, I'm just...
drove the snakes out of Ireland, drove the Coke into Corey's hand.
I'm just saying, whatever marketing exec picked the dates for Lent this year did an awful job putting St. Patrick's Day in the middle of a week.
Thanks, year 122 Jews. Good job.
Couldn't you have thought forward about this a little bit?
It's like year 5600. They're like, it's going to fuck up Corey. Let's do it.
One of these days, there's going to be a group of people called the Irish, and they're going to like to drink, and they're going to associate themselves with the saint for some reason. And then later, people who are kind of Irish, quasi-Irish, are going to like it even more than the real Irish will.
This is not a lightning round. Southern pastors said they're going to have church services. And in response, the governor said that's
God
a bad
unleashed
idea.
a plague.
God didn't. This is God punishing you for all of your sins. By the way, we have coronavirus because you touch yourself at night. That's why.
Because you have poop thoughts. Pooping thoughts.
Ideas.
Pooping ideas.
Nonetheless, so after being warned that this was a bad idea and people were going to end up being sick because they come to church services, one Southern pastor was quoted as saying, if people come to my Easter service and they get coronavirus, that's God punishing them. And this is why I don't like religion.
Yeah.
Because when good things happen, we thank God. When bad things happen, we
It's
blame
because
God.
you did something wrong.
There's no responsibility whatsoever.
God's nothing more than a Southern judge.
It really is. That I mean, to Southern, I want to say Baptist because I don't know it was a Baptist. To Southern preachers, God is just a Southern judge.
Yeah.
From a really bad movie made by somebody in Hollywood who's never actually been to Alabama.
Yeah. I like to imagine the judge with his like feet kicked up on the what do you call the thing in front of him? Just the desk? Like
Yeah?
There's no like grand name for it.
I don't think so.
Okay.
You mean like the
Yeah, like the whole desk thing that he's. I mean,
usually
the desk island that he sits.
The stand is next to him.
Yeah,
you go up to the stand.
I mean, like they have a name for that. The stand. Isn't there a name for the part that the judge's
actually,
quarter?
that's weird. We talk about it in like approaching, but it's
approaching the bench.
The bench, I guess. But the problem is that when I hear approaching the bench, I think that there is the.
I always thought the bench is more of another term for the judge as opposed to the place where he's sitting.
And also, I was always separated from them by a clerk who sat in front of him. So it was like, approach this area.
Yeah.
But the bench is the judge, not the seat there. So maybe it's like one of those things. We don't actually talk about the place. It's
Anyway, God's sitting there with his feet kicked up, boots off.
He's on the bench, right?
Yeah. It's just like, you got another DUI, did you, Billy? There's gonna be some penance.
Vinny, my cousin Vinny. Yeah. He's the judge for my cousin Vinny. Confused by all of these crazy things that you're bringing into his courtroom.
Wow, dear.
Do you even own a suit jacket, sir? But yeah, so if you got coronavirus because you went to church this weekend, that's God's punishment. And if you think that, you deserve it. Anyway, so moving on. What? I'm just saying.
That's fine. I was on a nod of disapproval. It was just sort of like, these are the things we say on the internet.
Yeah. By the way, atheists are going to be the one, they say the meek inherit the earth. Atheists are going to inherit the earth because you guys are going to do a bunch of dumb shit in the name of Christianity or religion in general and kill each other off. And that's what we call natural selection, which is also a real goddamn thing.
To me, it's just amazing that like church people are just like, I'm not going to get sick. I'm at church. And it's just like, the virus doesn't know you're at church. Like.
No. And by the way, the priest has got COVID, so when he blesses the water, you get it too.
Also, like, I understand the ritual of going to the church. But if I had the option when I was a young child to just watch church on TV instead of actually going, oh, God, I would have taken it every time. Like,
yeah, my parents never would have done that. But
I know, but I'm saying, like, at least hypothetically, like, the idea that somewhere out there's a church, there's like a Catholic broadcast of church happening that you don't even have to go to your church. You could just view some Denmark church, Like,
by the way, kids these days, again, have the ability to watch church from home.
Yeah.
Parents can now set up a camera that is recording live 1080p footage of the kids and be like, live on a speaker, Johnny, sit down. Just to make sure that they're watching the church service.
Yeah.
I had to pretend to be sick. I had to put a thermometer under hot water and then stick it in my mouth.
I think my mom thought I had a urinary tract infection when I used to go to church because I had to go to the bathroom all the time.
Yes.
It was really bad. Like 30 seconds after I got back, I was just like, pretty sure I got to pee again.
To be fair.
And then I disappear for 20 minutes and I come back and...
I joke about that, but I was a holy roller back when we went to church a lot. So right up until I got that Sunday school teacher to quit. And then things went completely awry for me. And anyway, now I'm the man you see before you.
I'm the man.
Oh, God. I haven't thought about that song in a long time. That was back when we had ringtones. And I made that my ringtone. Now the
ringback tone.
Now I don't have a ringback. Oh, no. It was a ringtone.
Do I have a ringback tone?
Yes, you do.
Is it playing Wagner or something right now?
It plays Wagner now. Because you used to have one, and you can't unhave one once you had one.
Yeah.
I, however, don't have a ringtone on my phone.
I should look into the market on that, see if I can still get a ringback tone.
You can.
Oh, you just go to like Verizon.
Go to Verizon, sign into your account. Now, remember, you had one especially for me.
Yeah.
So you could.
I used to be all about that.
Just special songs for people.
Yeah.
And ringtones. When we used to be happy, our cell phone would ring. Mm-hmm. And now I have the standard ring because I want to know that it's somebody, not a text, not a tweet. It's a call.
I used to have ringtones for my texts.
Yep.
Like it would play a little clip of a song that I liked.
And remember,
I never get tired of I heard I heard that Billy Talent song like 150 million times, and I never grew tired of it. Now I can't listen to, if I've heard the first 30 seconds of the song before, I'm just like, I know this one. Next.
The call was 40 seconds. A text was 7 seconds. So you had to pick out the best 7 seconds to make that your text tone.
My phone could do whatever I wanted.
Oh,
I could just pick
right.
it. I could play the whole song if I wanted it to.
Well, I had a business phone. I didn't have a pleasure phone, all right? That's why I had
have
the
a
internet
goof it
on
off
my
phone.
I had Facebook on my phone back in 2002. And everybody said, by the way, assholes from college back in 2002 when I had early, Q2?
I was like, when I had the BlackBerry, people were like, why would you want a keyboard on your phone? I'm like, why wouldn't you?
Why do you need to check Facebook from your phone? And now I still get the tweets I sent out where I was like, stopped at home to check Facebook. Now I'm back out. And I'm like, oh, those days where now we don't log off.
I just wish I could go back and read all my old AIM away messages.
I have all of my AIM conversations saved.
Do you?
On a disc, yes.
I have a lot of them, and I remembered once I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna go check out
Don't.
I'm gonna go check
You're
out
not
like,
gonna be happy
my
about what you
conversation with Rob and see like what we were talking about in 2003. And I was alarmed that it wasn't nearly as many sexy pictures as I thought it was, and it was a lot more of like, hey, do you want to go with Zach to Sabara?
That's exactly what it is. The most inane stuff. By the way,
meet at the student center in 10 minutes.
just like your Twitter from 2007 or whatever, or 5, it's all the most inane nonsense. Had a cheeseburger. Like, why did I feel like I needed to tweet that? I don't know.
The ones that really bother me is like every once in a while I'll get like a Facebook thing from like 15 years ago or whatever it is.
Never good.
And then
Never good.
I can still see the part where you had to write Facebook updates in the version of Corey Baker
Because put it as if you said it. Yes.
So like I'll just like look at like these things that pop up and it's just like, is thinking about going out to the movies tonight. And I'm just like, what the fuck kind of grammar is this? Like, it'll confuse me. I'll look at it. I'll just be like, what the hell was I doing? And then I'm like, oh.
Yeah, by the way, Facebook, you can't save those as its format where it's like always put the name in front of it and it is, so it makes sense.
Right.
I hate you. Also, by the way, facebook.com/
or just a little like pop down on like Time Hop, just like, hey, remember the world was different back then.
Meanwhile,
it's just like you're reading Huck Finn, and it's just like the teacher's got to be like, no, this is a different world. So.
Meanwhile, by the way, I say I hate Facebook. And our links to social media have been below us the entire time we've been doing the show. So please come give us validation on Instagram and Facebook and
elsewhere.
Everywhere. So for your consideration, let me grab the splash for that. Oh,
no time. We got to move on quickly.
Yep. Movie theaters, questionable future. Corey and I are both sad about this, but the movie industry will always survive. We'll talk more about movies at some other point, I guess. But.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's not really a whole lot to say until we get closer to an end here, but just know, I guess generally speaking, if you hear stories about movie theater companies filing for bankruptcy,
right?
Bankruptcy is not necessarily we're out of business. It's we need to restructure debt.
Yes.
And a lot of how the movie theaters make money is based off of, well, we're going to have more money coming in eventually.
It's never going to stop.
Right. Like this summer, Star Wars is coming out, so we're going to make more money. It'll be fine. So you can lend us money.
Yep.
And then everyone's like, oh, yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. And then movies stop, and you're just like, well,
that's an
awful lot of expenses without any money coming in.
At some point, an executive made the joke, what? Are we going to have people stop coming to the theater? And then they approved a $100 million loan. And
the Bank of America executive laughed. He's just like, that's the funniest shit I've heard all day.
And then people stopped going to the
Jerry
theater.
from marketing shits himself. Like,
and then people stopped going to the theater, and it's not funny anymore. And you're holding a big banknote, and you're like, hey, AMC, remember when you said people will never stop coming to the theater? Yeah, about that.
Force majeure.
Okay. Everybody's scrolling through their contracts like, what's the force majeure on this?
The words force majeure have never been Googled by lawyers' offices, or have never been searched in documents for Google's and lawyers' offices more.
Not at all. By the way,
all the fuck over the place.
I'm looking through some of them because I'm just like, what do we have to do here in this situation? So I know people who actually have real contracts with real things at stake. We can do everything we need to do from home, so that's fine. It's just like, do we have to do it within 3 days, or is there a little bit of push?
By the way, just one quick defense of lawyers here. I feel like they're never defended. I'm gonna
go ahead and put you on the screen.
I'm gonna give one quick word and say that sometimes you get like a really crazy lawyer, and he seems to be thinking about things that are not going to ever happen. And it's just like he's like, you come in just for a simple prenup, and you're just like, listen, it's not going to be that complex. I just want to make sure that the assets are clearly defined and we have a written contract, blah, blah, blah. It's not a whole to-do. And then he starts launching into all these things. It's like, well, what if your wife walks out and goes to India and you can't divorce her? Do you have anything in place in case that happens? And you're just like, what kind of crazy scenario is that? And then you're just like, write whatever you want. Just do that contract. I don't care. And then eventually you both sign it, and then she leaves and she goes to Pakistan, and you're just like, God, I hope there's something in that contract about Pakistan. Like, I hope he wasn't just crazy about India for some reason. I'm going to go into that force majeure, and I'm going to find, like...
Everyone now wishes that
any Central Asian country.
Everyone wishes that they had Carol Baskin's husband's attorney who thought ahead about his disappearance and not just his death.
Yeah.
So
to start off the contract with disappearance is a bold stroke.
Also,
like the lawyers sat there going like, I'm going to rewrite contract law today in the case of my disappearance.
Never happened before, but just in case it does.
I always like when the lawyer got the thing too. He's like, well, I've never seen this before.
Never before. I've been practicing for 45 years. I've never seen this.
Thank God we had this guy for just that moment.
In other for your consideration news, there is a chance that O The Anthem is going to have the #1 movie in the country at some point this year. So stay posted for that, because we figured out the math and it's not that hard.
I was talking to somebody in finance today about that. It's not as interesting a conversation as you think it is. But I was talking to somebody in finance, and I mentioned that you could have the #1 movie in the country for $5,000. And they're just like, you should fucking do it. That's a great investment. And
yes!
I'm just like, yes! I'm going to do it.
So, hey, guys.
There are no losers. There's only scoreboards.
Patreon.com/OTheAnthem. We're looking to raise $5,000 to make the #1 movie in the country. Because, by the way, we could stroke that forever. I'd be like, well, back in 2020, eventually their executives won't remember. They'll just be like,
yeah,
you guys have the #1 movie in the country? Like, yeah, 4 weeks in a row. It's crazy.
The problem is you got to figure out the exact right time.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
like, be the #1 movie in the country on, like, Easter weekend actually would have been a good one.
Oh,
but I mean, like, if you got like the July 4th, like #1 movie in the country, you could just walk into any meeting and just be like, we have the #1 movie in the country on July 4th.
How about
just like
Memorial Day weekend?
What? Yeah, Memorial Day would be a great one.
We kicked off the summer of 2020, the weekend of June 1st, with the #1 movie in the country.
Yeah. So, blank check, Universal. Don't look into my IMDb. Just give me money.
Don't do any investigation whatsoever into the circumstances of that claim.
Trust me on this outrageous claim. Don't look any further, and thank you.
No, here's all you have to do. Google #1 movie, U.S., June 1, 2020. Limit it to that.
I mean, listen, not like it's the end-all, be-all, but there's a lot of great directors who never had the #1 movie in the country.
Yep.
I mean, like, I off the top of my head, I can't think of any, but, like, I'm sure somebody's going to be like, Kubrick only placed 2 on The Shining. And I'll be like, there we go.
I'm pretty sure he had the #1.
I think he had it with Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah. I hate that is true, but I think you're right. That might be the one time.
I think that might have been the...
God damn it. All the great films he's made, and it's Eyes Wide Shut is the one that he opened at the #1 in the country.
Well, it took 9 years to make it, so they've...
A lot of investment. All right, so lightning round through the news. Here we go.
Because this is all supposed to be lightning round.
Yes, as we do our lightning round. So Biden, much to my chagrin, released his plan for medical.
Well, real quick before we get to that part of it, we should mention that Bernie Sanders is no longer running for president.
Yes.
He dropped out. He's endorsed Biden. So
he was
now
on SNL. I think it was him this week. I don't know. I haven't seen him in a while.
So the election in 2016 is going to be Biden v. Trump.
No, 2020. We're in
2020. I'm sorry. Of course I did that. It's going to be Biden-Trump.
Yes.
So, yay, our national nightmare is over,
so
I guess.
If I did vote, I literally would be voting for any competent adult. I write that in. Any competent adult. Because neither of those guys are, I think. But now being the presumed nominee.
At some point, I would like to talk about Biden's sexual assault allegations against him.
Sure, let's do
that. Because
that's
picked up a little bit here, but it feels like we've already said way too many things that we're probably going to regret in a couple of years.
Yeah,
so we
probably.
should probably just stop with the Biden talk. For
other than the guys who said you'd figured out how to stack the ratings for movies. I'm like, yep, we can do that for you. You want to write me a check?
But yes, Biden's bullshit medical plan. Now that he's the presumptive Democratic nominee.
Right. So also, I want to say hi to Isaiah Valentine, who is watching us on Facebook and said hello. Hi, thank you for checking us out. You also can get a shout out if you join us in the chat for any of the places. You can find us live on Twitch, Periscope, which is Twitter, YouTube, and on Facebook. And if you say something in the chat, we'll say something back right here live on the show. Yeah. But Biden released his medical plan, and after Bernie dropped out, everyone was assuming like, oh, well, he's going to loosen up on this. And he did. Oh, by God, did he? Because his first announcement after Bernie stepped down is, you know what?
It's almost like he ripped off the Joe Biden costume, and it was like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez
underneath. Yes, absolutely.
Fuck you!
And then he was like, we are going to lower.
It was that ridiculous of a plan, that amazing of a step.
He said, we're going to lower the Medicare age. And that, by the way, was the lead that got me to click on the story. And then I saw the story, which is they are lowering it to 60, because through this crisis, I have thought, what are people between 60 and 65 doing without Medicare? Not at all thinking,
hoping not to die.
Not at all thinking about, everyone between 18 and 30 who is also young and has jobs that, by the way, are considered essential now for some reason. The guy you don't want to pay $15 to is now an essential worker, and he's got to be at work every day. Can't give him insurance. Anyway, so 60. Yeah, so I want to point fingers at Corey, not at you, but at Corey, because I believe you said last week, well, maybe we'll see a little bit of Bernie leak into Biden's platform. And we did a little bit, very little, very, very little.
I'm not saying that this is the grand gesture I was hoping for. I think there's more to come. I think that Biden wasn't necessarily prepared to come up with a medical plan in the middle of the whole pandemic.
You
but
know who was? Bernie. Bernie.
Yeah.
Put out
I know.
in the middle of it.
I know, because Bernie's always right. Why didn't
we vote for president in 91 when he was a little bit younger and still?
He was because he was exactly the same person.
I know.
It
would have been voting for the same.
Like
guy.
the problem is like they show old clips of Bernie and you expect to see him like be like I'm up for anything except for these gays getting married.
Nope.
It's just like it's like 1970 and there's a bunch of people like with pitchforks in front of him. He's just like, and the gays need to get married, and it's just like, sure. I mean, Bernie's really
still gray hair, still balding on top, looks exactly the same.
He's been like that since he was 17. Like
he's that guy. But that's the thing is like consistency. Joe Biden is a different guy every time he runs for president, which by the way, he does a lot. This is the 5th decade he's run for president. Actually, we might be in the 6th decade that he's run for president.
Maybe.
Because I think 2020, the 20s will be the 6th decade. 70s, 80s,
but he wouldn't
90s,
technically. Well,
2000s.
Are we counting 20 as the end of the decade or the beginning of the decade?
I'm just saying the decades. The decades
because
of the 1980s.
There was a lot of killjoys who were saying that, like the year 2000 wasn't really the end of the millennium. It was 2001 when we...
Screw it. No, I'm going to go with that. Which actually means not 6, but 7, because he ran in 1979 for the 1980 election. So he was running for president in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2000 teens several times, and now the 2020s.
Yeah.
6 decades he's run for president, and every time he's a different guy, and every time he puts his foot in his mouth and the campaign stutters. And we just haven't given them a chance to do that yet. So,
well, he's just hiding out. He's just at the house, not doing anything.
Best thing he could do.
Yeah,
best thing he could do. Also, because he's really old, and if he gets coronavirus, he's probably going to die. And we don't need that constitutional crisis.
I mean, we could still do that same constitutional crisis magic with Trump too, because he's an elderly gentleman who is not doing anything to protect himself from coronavirus.
And by the way, has put people around him who cannot wait for the next election to be like, it's been a long 4 years, I'm going to step back. Yeah. And by the way, the Republicans killed anyone running against him. Like there were 4 candidates at one point, and they just kept them from getting on the ballot.
Fuck Bill Weld.
Canceled primaries, everything. So anyway, speaking of Trump, Trump's back to Trump. His press conference last night turned into I knew about this. I was aware ahead of time. I've made all the right decisions. Well, what about the thing? Fake news. So just in case it wasn't clear last week, I rescind my comment from 2 weeks ago.
Oh, do you?
Where I said, maybe he's going to be somebody different. As I said last week.
Your hot take is just getting hotter and hotter.
We're dealing with a sociopathic narcissist, and that's what I forgot to calculate in. The math was good, but I was using a magic number that Kevin uses called 11, where it makes everything add up at the end of the day.
I just don't get these press conferences. I don't understand who I completely stopped watching them. I can't even, because it's not like Trump really has the introspection to be able to give us an answer to a question that would help at all. Like, because like everything is just shaded around how do I make it look like I'm doing an amazing job.
Yeah.
Like, so the one day where he looked like, someone slapped his knuckles and he had to deliver the bad news was the closest we've gotten to him being able to do this, like, on any kind of realistic basis.
Yeah.
And I mean, today he basically did a campaign ad from the White House press briefing room where all the Republican governors talked about how his steady leadership has helped along the country at this time of need and stuff like that. And then he retweets somebody who says fire Fauci, and then answers a question like he was surprised that somebody was going to ask him about the tweet that he retweeted. And then he was like, no, I'm not going to fire Fauci. I had people say I wasn't going to fire Fauci. It's just like, well, why did you retweet that? And it's just like, people have opinions. I just put them out there. And it's just like, nobody else goes by that logic. If
no.
Tom Hanks like retweeted somebody who's just like, the black people should die. They're the problem. And then like people were just like, Hanks, what the fuck? He was just like, listen, there's a lot of people with opinions. I just feel like people should know about them. Like,
yeah, no. And Tom Hanks not the president of the United States.
I feel like I had a perfectly good opportunity with my millions upon millions of Twitter followers to explain to them that there's people unlike you out on the internet, and this is an example of that. Like, that's not a logic that works. And the fact that somebody is spending the time to like making sure you look good is something you can do after you're done the job.
Yeah.
Like the reason why Gavin Newsom gets to be sewn into a new suit every day is because he did his homework early. Like he has an extra 20 minutes for the gentleman from Brooks Brothers to craft a suit around his silhouette,
Did you say something about doing his assistant early? I missed that. What was that?
What?
Something about that? Campaign manager's wife? Something?
Oh, yeah. It doesn't matter. It was when he was the mayor of San Francisco. It's like 10,000 years ago.
Good, clearly, yeah. I'm just kidding. I love Gavin Newsom. I take him down because I think that he would say the same thing. He'd be like, yeah, what are you going to do? Sometimes you do make mistakes. But I went to rehab and I had a problem.
Listen, sometimes you're good looking and you get in trouble and then you go to rehab and then you're good looking again. And I can't help it.
Good looking never stops. Good looking never stops. I do want to save your metaphor for next week.
Okay.
Which is the next point, because I think that would take some time to dive into, and I think it's so good. I do want to take the time to dive into it.
Okay.
So let's just say the last thing is just why homelessness is a problem.
Okay.
And I think we talked about when this first happened that we were very concerned because the LA homeless population is quite expansive.
Yeah.
And you were saying something about you're not seeing reports. Do you remember in the pre-show?
Well, it's the problem is that not enough people have been tested to accurately tell how many people have coronavirus. And I feel like any number you hear anywhere in the world is merely a suggestion. Do not take China for its word, and also do not take the United States numbers for their word. They could be a lot higher, and there could be a lot more deaths that are associated with corona that weren't corona. Yes, I get it. There's a lot of things that aren't being factored in exactly the way they should be.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, let's assume the numbers are somewhat close to right.
Sure.
There were people who were. It just seems like the people who are coming into homeless shelters are not getting as sick, and it's just not passing through the homeless community like you would imagine it would.
Yeah.
I mean,
which is good news, by the way.
Well, I mean, like a lot of pandemic experts, like who were predicting when the next one would come, talked about large street living populations in city like Los Angeles and New Delhi and stuff like that, where if there is some sort of plague developed amongst the homeless and it got spread amongst that community and then outward into downtown and then spread on from there and then the water supply and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like it could be the plague that started from just a homeless encampment.
Especially something that, by the way, has no symptoms for the first 5, 6, 7 days because no one knows you're sick.
Yeah.
And then you are downtown on business and you go back to Beverly Hills and you take it back to your neighborhood meeting in Beverly Hills.
And this is not meant as anything to deride the homeless because they have no ability to protect themselves like we do. Like they can't go into a home to protect themselves. So and clearly they're more at stake, but
that's my source of comment is that like we have that concern. And luckily the group of people who suffer from homelessness have done, I think, an admirable job the same way that we all Angelinos have of saying like, I think I read the story that said people are reporting to medical care, homeless clinics for free medical care, and no one's testing positive. And basically the reports are, well, I may not have a house, but I'm around the same 4 people and I'm not going new places. I'm staying put. Also, by the way, the police aren't shuffling them out of places, so they're not going from place to place to place. Well, homeless shelters are taking in more people too.
There's more capacity for them to not be on the streets, which is nice. Something that you wish would happen more often when there isn't a pandemic, but you make do with what you can, the good news you get when you get it.
This is what we call the side effects of capitalism. We have to accept that for capitalism to exist in the form in which we want it to exist right now, apparently, there's going to be a homeless population. There's going to be a jobless population, and we just deal with it. And we deal with the fact that there's an entire group of people whose ability to survive is dependent upon the kindness of strangers.
Yeah.
Now, the state has stepped up the kindness. We are expanding beds in facilities. We're giving meals out to people. We're doing all of that. But today, on my walk over to the studio here, I was approached by 2 homeless people. One asked for a cigarette and the other asked for change to get something to eat. That has not happened in, I haven't been out that much either, but like that hasn't happened in weeks.
Yeah.
So when we are concerned about the spread of disease and how a homeless population can increase that, but we recognize that the solution is right here, why aren't we embracing that on a day-to-day basis? Why do we wait for the pandemic to embrace that solution?
Well, I think because of the logic that, if this got into the homeless community and went wild, then it could have way bigger impacts than we would ever.
But you just pointed out, if it started there, it would spread everywhere and we wouldn't know it. So the next one might start in that population.
Right.
And by addressing the problem, we can keep that from happening.
I think at the end of the day, and this is not saying that LA couldn't do more or other municipalities couldn't do more about homeless on the day to day, but there's no silver bullet for homelessness. It's not one solution that fixes every single problem.
Yeah, there is.
Well, the idea of giving everyone homes is one, but I'm saying like
there are 400 million empty houses in the United States and 1 million people living on the street.
How many?
There are 100 empty houses for every homeless person.
Just because there is an empty house, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't give these people more houses. Sure. I'm just saying, just generally speaking, a 1-for-1 homeless for a house doesn't necessarily mean that person is able to correct whatever went wrong in their lives to make them homeless in the first place.
Salt Lake City.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that the home in which they inhabit will be habitable for long.
Salt Lake City.
Because a lot of people develop habits that keep them from being able to own property.
Salt Lake City eliminated homelessness. How did they do this? They created communities of tiny houses. Mm-hmm. They made facilities available to the people who had the tiny houses, like public bathrooms, public showers, that kind of thing.
Right.
And in order to get access, you had to submit to mental health screening, mental health treatment, drug treatment, whatever. And eventually, it took them a year, I think 3 years actually. But eventually, the entire population moved into this transitional housing, and a lot of them moved out of that transitional housing and back into jobs, back into houses.
I'm not saying that there's not more that can be done. And not that I don't want to help people. I'm just saying that LA has, just to name one community that has struggled with homelessness for a long time, has tried to figure out the most holistic approach to every single version of homelessness. And in an effort to create a wide enough net to catch as much of homelessness as possible, they've created holes in the net that are too big to catch everybody.
Yeah.
And
you catch big swaths, but it means you are intentionally missing other people.
Well, I mean, we've talked about this many times where it's just like, a Democrat will come up with an idea for a bill, an infrastructure bill. It's just like everyone likes infrastructure.
Yeah.
And then you think of all the different ways in which, this road could collapse under 15 different circumstances. I know now that we're in the middle of a pandemic, you're wishing that there were more people who came up with these ridiculous circumstances. But
yeah.
I mean, like in the old days, you'd just be like, why does this Kansas highway need to have retrofitting for earthquakes when there hasn't been an earthquake in Kansas City ever?
Like say in 4 million years.
Yeah.
When it wasn't Kansas City.
Right. When it was one solid continent that Europe touched Miami. Like,
yes. Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know. Like I feel like the best approach to homelessness in my mind is to figure out a way to get as many of them off the streets as possible.
Sure.
And then maybe take the data of what you get coming in to define how you try and approach it. So I have a shelter with 100 beds, right? 100 homeless people come in tomorrow night. And I say, why do I just have a questionnaire where I ask them questions. Skip ahead to why are you homeless?
Yeah.
Like figure out for what reason you're here, and then try and use that data. Like 15% of them said they were veterans and nobody gave them a job and they had PTSD and they couldn't live with anybody and they got in trouble with a gun charge and then they went to jail and nobody would take care of them. Now they're on the street and like you can say like veterans are 15% of the people who are homeless on the street, or this mental health problem is why this person is on the street, or drugs, or a family that doesn't love them, or no family at all, or whatever it may be that led us here, and then work on that. Like you can develop problems after you know what they are a lot better than you can figure out all the solutions to problems before you know what the problems are.
I recommend everybody watch Wild Wild Country on Netflix. It's a documentary about the sannyasins. It's a religious group who, once they had a facility built in Oregon, they took buses around the country and shipped in 6,000 homeless people from cities all over the country.
Yeah.
And just basically said, we're going to give you a place to live. And don't keep watching to episode 5 and 6 because it turns out there was a lot of shade with any of these kind of like organizations in the 70s. There was a little bit of shady stuff going on in the background. But their work with the homeless was unparalleled. Healthcare, mental health care, for homeless people, giving them a place to live and giving them a sense of community, and how strongly that supported the group as a whole. So at one point, the homeless population, or they called them street people, the street people outnumbered the religious sect, but they were there to support each other, basically. The religious sect gave the money that supported the population. They gave the bodies to support building projects and, all the stuff that they were doing on the ranch. And this is my sannyasins are long gone. My religion, however, which will be starting soon, will have the same policies. And all I'm saying is, with your donation today, we can solve this.
It's a long way to go for the
Let me get that 501c3 started first, and then or C4. 501c4 started, and then your donations can go a long way to addressing these problems.
I would just like to imagine that you show up to the court, the county clerk or something like that, in a suit and a smile, and you're just like standing there. It's just like, you're starting your own fucking religion, aren't you?
Especially
sure
in LA.
am.
Especially in LA. In LA, they're just like, you look like a guy starting a religion.
You Miscavige looking motherfucker.
Well, now that we've insulted nearly everybody and brought ire from everyone.
I don't know what you're talking about. I
you
think
just described me as Miscavige looking motherfucker.
Yeah, I think you're both good looking guys. I mean, like, not no homo, just like in a weird, like, kind of like.
That's Corey at OTheAnthem.com.
Just like a weird, like, strong featured face.
In that we might have our wives killed if
Yeah,
okay, I mean, I guess that's fair.
This one's gonna go down in the annals. I don't know by which purpose, but all I'm saying is that if the Library of Congress needs a copy, I can send one over.
All I'm saying is that someday you're going to be asked about this episode in front of a jury of your peers.
Where were you? Where were you when the conspiracy started?
Oh, and here's a good example for your screenwriting. We have just started a conspiracy.
Welcome to the official podcast of the shadow government of the United States. By states, for states.
I can be the Howard Dean of this. Hiya!
Well, we've if there's any place to go after this whole clusterfuck, you know where you go?
Where's that?
OTheAnthem.com, core to OTheAnthem.com, O The Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, listener line, 443-219-7595.
What's the
My
number
brain
again?
just stopped working for like a long stretch of that. 443-219-7595. If it sounded like words weren't like actually I was listening to a Dolby Atmos thing earlier, and it's just like they were using words that I recognized, but I just imagined Rachel listening to it and just being like, so if you find the pan level of the noise floor too elevated or crunchy, then perhaps you're
making up words, right?
Like, she was just like looking at it like, what the fuck am I watching? Is this adult gibberish for idiots?
Yes, it sounds like that. That sound stuff.
If you want more of me, you can go to my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, and at LegendsCB5 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Unleashed my first TikTok today. It is
boring.
Not going over well. I learned from mistakes. Most recent review was the Jay and Silent Bob reboot. We'll look for something to do before Thursday, and you can see a video then.
Hey. Yeah. Good stuff. All right. And, of course, you can find more of me at Robert N. Cheek on all your social networks. Make sure you check out the brand new and slightly up but still under construction, robertncheek.com, where you can find links to all of the videos, youtube.com/Rob Cheek. The reviews are up there.
Too many people go to that website at once. It's hosted by GeoCities.
I don't know if you can take it.
It's only designed for 3 or 4 people at a time. So
I do have a visitor counter at the bottom. So
there is social distancing. Social distancing applies on robertncheek.com.
Most recent review was
Swiss Army Man.
Swiss Army Man, yes, which is it's a weird movie, and I talk about how weird it is. And coming up this Thursday is Jay and Silent Bob reboot, so make sure you check that out. More reviews coming soon. At the website, you can also find links to the books, which are available on Amazon.
Barrow's Books.
Thank you. And everything that I am doing will be available up there, so make sure you check it out. robertncheek.com.
Hooray! Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good. But as always, you're listening to the O The Anthem podcast, part of the O The Anthem digital network, which now includes the great new podcast, Poopin' Ideas.
It's a podcast that only lasts as long as a poop lasts.
I was really just going to try to roll through, but
5 to 2.5 hours of...
As I said it, I pictured us... on individual toilets doing the podcast. That was just it.
I'm going to have to figure out a way to change the alignment of the toilet so it like faces the other wall so we can get Prince in the background of my shot.
Or just hang him up behind a toilet.
He goes on the other wall. Haven't you ever heard of feng shui?
Hey, or we could just have Prince cam. Cut to the Prince cam every now and again. Third camera.
Alternate shot. What's Prince thinking about this?
Meanwhile, in the reflection
by
of
the way,
you.
Surprise, motherfuckers. I got a picture of Prince in my bathroom.
Anybody who
stares at me while I poop. He was looking at me when I came up with pooping ideas.
Anybody who follows us on Instagram at O The Anthem would have seen the video of Corey throwing up after our Drinko de Mayo episode and me saying Prince is judging you while he was puking.
By the way, I can't say for sure, but I think Drinko de Mayo is canceled.
No, it's not canceled. It is on. We can still get alcohol delivery, as we proved yesterday. So it's on.
Right,
and by the way, we still have the same tequila still undrunk from last year.
Yeah.
So anyway, for Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
I have nothing else to add.
There is nothing else that could be added. This is exactly what it is.
Case closed.